Welcome back to the deep dive. There's this very specific, almost visceral frustration that you get when you're watching a legal thriller.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
You're sitting there, right, and you're usually shouting at the screen because the lawyer is doing something incredibly noble, but it's also, logically just stupid.
Or the cops are really competent, but they're completely shackled by bureaucracy.
Exactly. It's a formula. And look, it's a comforting formula, but it is a formula. But today, the story we're diving into today takes that formula, sets it on fire, and then just tosses it into a frozen lake in Wisconsin.
It really does. It just completely upends all the genre expectations.
Right.
We were looking at the Center City mystery.
Right.
And it revolves around just brutal murders of two college students, Elizabeth Barlow and Cheryl Hendricks.
And if you are expecting a standard procedural, where the good guys follow the rules and the bad guys are obvious, you're in for a surprise.
A huge surprise. This is a case where the modern legal system doesn't just clash with a murderer. It crashes headfirst into a theocratic micronation that's just operating right in the middle of the United States.
It's a collision of worlds. That's the only way to describe it.
It really is.
On one side, you've got Andy Carpenter. He's this cynical, super wealthy, dog-loving defense attorney from New Jersey.
And on the other side, you have Center City, this totally closed-off religious sect where a spinning wheel literally determines your entire fate.
And then caught right in the middle of this clash are two dead young women and a local kid who, on paper, looks guilty as sin.
And our mission today is to really unpack that collision. We're not just going to, retell the plot points. We really need to analyze the legal strategies.
Yeah.
The sociology of this cult-like town, and I think the psychology of a reluctant defense attorney.
That's a great point. Because Andy Carpenter isn't just a lawyer in this story. He's a case study in how financial independence completely changes the way justice is served.
That's the perfect place to start. Let's talk about our protagonist, Andy Carpenter.
Yeah, because usually in these kinds of stories, the lawyer is hungry.
Right. They're fighting for their career. They're scraping by. Maybe they're an alcoholic looking for one last shot at redemption.
Andy is. Well, he's none of those things.
No, he is the complete opposite. The source material makes his point over and over again. Andy Carpenter is rich.
And not just successful lawyer rich.
No. He is inherited $22 million rich.
Which just fundamentally changes the stakes of the entire narrative, doesn't it?
Completely. I mean, think about the average defense attorney. They're running a business.
Of course.
They have overhead. They have to worry about billable hours. They have to keep judges happy because they've got another case in front of them next week.
You have to play the game.
You have to play the game. You have to maintain relationships with prosecutors to get good plea deals in the future. Andy does not care.
He's the unbuyable man.
Exactly. He doesn't need the money. He certainly doesn't need the friends. If a judge is being unfair, Andy can afford to be sarcastic.
Which he is.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
And if a prosecutor is cutting corners, Andy can call it out loud and clear without worrying about his next case. Because he doesn't want a next case.
That's the really funny part. The guy is brilliant, but he is also profoundly lazy.
Efficient might be the generous word for it. But yeah, lazy works just fine.
Right. He would much, much rather be at a sports bar watching a game or just walking his golden retriever, Tara.
And if you really look at his psychological profile, his relationship with that dog is the absolute emotional anchor of his entire life. Tara is the one being he trusts without any reservation.
I love his internal monologue in the source material. It's so self-deprecating. There's that great note in the files about him referring to the transition woman.
Oh, right. That's his whole theory on dating.
Yeah, he says the transition woman is the doomed first relationship you have after a big breakup. He knows he's rusty.
He's totally out of practice.
He knows he's cynical, and he's practically asking the court clerk for dating advice. It's hilarious. He's self-aware enough to know he's a romantic disaster, which, it makes him incredibly likable.
It grounds him. The guy has $22 million in the bank, but he's insecure about asking someone out, and he adores his dog. It makes him accessible to us.
So that brings us to the big question. Why does a guy who has $22 million, a perfectly good ESPN subscription, and a deep-seated hatred of actual work, why does he go to freezing cold Findlay, Wisconsin to take on a murder case?
The catalyst. And her name is Lori Collins.
The one that got away.
That's her. Exactly. Lori was an investigator back in New Jersey. They had a serious relationship, but she left.
Went back home.
Right, back to her hometown of Findlay to become the police chief. And now, here's the twist that just hooks you right in.
Okay.
Lori calls Andy. She's now the acting chief of police in Findlay. And she has just arrested a young man named Jeremy Davidson for a brutal double homicide.
Hold on, let's pause there because that dynamic it's wild. She arrested him, but she's calling a defense attorney for him.
That is the central conflict of the whole setup. She did her job. All the evidence pointed directly at Jeremy, so she put the cuffs on him. She followed procedure to the letter.
But something feels wrong to her.
Her gut, her intuition as a cop is screaming that he didn't do it. So she's in this impossible position.
She is the face of the prosecution, essentially.
Absolutely. She's the one standing in front of the camera saying, "We got our man." But behind the scenes, she's secretly recruiting the one defense attorney she trusts to dismantle her own case.
It's a huge conflict of interest, isn't it? I mean, ethically speaking.
It's deep in an ethical gray area, for sure. But for her, it's driven by a moral imperative. She cares more about actual justice than her conviction rate.
And she knows Andy is the only one who can and will save this kid if he's actually innocent.
Because he doesn't care about the politics or the money. He only cares about the truth.
So Andy packs up his car, loads up the dog, because of course terror is coming, and drives to the frozen tundra. He walks into a situation that is already hostile from the get-go.
Right. And let's look at the defendant he's going to see, Jeremy Davidson.
Okay.
Jeremy is the perfect patsy. He's 21 years old, a local farm kid.
And he was dating one of the victims, Elizabeth Barlow.
He was, and the breakup was messy.
We've seen this 1,000 times in these cases, the jealous ex-boyfriend angle. It's always the first place detectives look.
It is the oldest motive in the book. But the
Yeah.
context here is what makes it so different. Elizabeth wasn't just some girl breaking up with a boy. She was from Center City.
And Jeremy was from Findlay.
And in this part of Wisconsin, those are two completely different planets.
We're definitely going to get into Center City in a minute. But the basics are, she was from this very closed, very rigid society, right?
Exactly. So Elizabeth broke it off, not because she stopped loving him, but because of this immense pressure from her community, from this religious sect.
He was an outsider.
An outsider. To the sect, he was a contaminant, a corrupting influence.
So the prosecution's case rates itself. Motive, rejection, jealousy. What about the opportunity?
They've got that too. Witnesses put them in a bar called the Crow's Nest shortly before she disappeared.
And they were fighting.
They were arguing publicly. Jeremy was yelling. He was refusing to accept the breakup. It looks bad. I mean, if you're a juror, you hear that a jilted lover was making a scene right before the victim vanishes.
You're already halfway to a conviction.
Right. And then comes the physical evidence. And this is where the legal battle really starts to heat up.
This is what makes it feel like a slam dunk for the DA.
It does. The bodies of Elizabeth Barlow and her friend Cheryl Hendricks were found in a shallow grave on the Davidson property.
Jeremy's family farm.
This family's farm, yeah.
It's really hard to argue with bodies in your own backyard.
It's about as damning as it gets. And to make matters even worse, the police, specifically an Officer Cliff Parsons, claimed he saw blood in Jeremy's truck.
Ah, the plain view doctrine.
Exactly. That plain view sighting is what allowed them to search the property without a warrant. Or at least it's what gave them the probable cause to start digging. It's the linchpin of their whole initial investigation.
So Andy arrives in this mess. He meets Jeremy's father, Richard Davidson. And this part of the story, it really highlights Andy's character again.
It really does. Richard Davidson is a desperate man. He's a father who is absolutely convinced his son is innocent.
And he's willing to do anything.
Anything. He offers to mortgage the farm, his entire livelihood, his family's legacy, to pay Andy's fee.
And a normal, high-powered attorney from out of town, they might take it. They'd say murder trials are expensive.
And they are. But not Andy.
No.
Andy takes a retainer of $2,500, just a token amount. He knows, and we know, that he's never going to bill them for the real cost of a murder defense.
He's a softie.
He's a total softie. He sees a father in pain, and the money just doesn't matter to him.
Good.
But, and this is a key point, he hasn't fully committed to taking the case yet.
Right, he's just sniffing around.
He's just checking it out. He wants to see Lori, he wants to see what, but he is not in yet. He is 1 foot out the door.
Until the firebombing.
That is the absolute turning point. While Andy is in town, staying in a little rental house, someone throws a firebomb at the Davidson house.
Which is just a massive tactical error by whoever the bad guys are, when you think about it.
A huge one. If they had just left Andy alone, he might have gotten bored and gone back to New Jersey. He hates the cold. He misses his sports bar.
But this is different.
This is violence. It's bullying. And that triggers his stubborn streak. He realizes there's a mob mentality at work here. Someone wants the Davidsons completely destroyed before a trial can even happen.
And that injustice is what locks him in.
He's staying. He's taken the case.
He decides to fight, but he can't do it alone. He's a stranger in a strange land. He's a sharp New Jersey guy in the middle of rural Wisconsin. He needs a guide.
He does. And the source material introduces us to one of the most colorful characters I have ever come across in any of these cases, Calvin Marshall.
Calvin is a gem. What a character.
He is the local defense attorney that Andy partners with. And you have to picture the scene. A messy, dusty office above a travel agency. Files are stacked everywhere.
And then there's Calvin himself.
Described as cantankerous, brilliant, and missing a leg.
The story of the leg just keeps changing. It's one of the best running gags in the case notes.
It really is. When Andy first meets him, Calvin claims it was a mountain climbing accident.
Right, he says he was trapped by a boulder and had to cut it off himself, like something out of a movie.
Yeah, the whole 127-hour story. Very, very dramatic.
But that's not the only story.
Not by a long shot. Later, he tells someone else he lost it, saving a child from a thresher accident on a local farm. A real hero story.
And then there's a third one.
To another person, it was bone cancer. A tragic medical reason.
So is he just a compulsive liar? What's going on with him?
Andy calls him a bullshit artist. But I think it's more of a defense mechanism. Calvin uses storytelling to control the narrative around him. He keeps people off balance.
And more importantly, he understands the local rhythm.
He understands the small-town shuffle. That's what he calls it.
Break that down for us. What is the small-town shuffle?
It's a tempo. It's a pace of life. Andy's from the East Coast. He talks fast, he walks fast, he thinks fast, he interrupts people.
And in a rural jury trial in Wisconsin.
That comes across as slick, arrogant, untrustworthy. It looks like a big city lawyer trying to pull a fast one on us simple folk.
So Calvin's job is to be the metronome, to slow him down.
Precisely. Calvin is the anchor. He literally tells Andy to slow down his walking pace. He reminds him that in Findlay, you have to chat about the weather for 5 minutes before you can ask for a favor.
You ask about the family?
You ask about the family. It's cultural translation, pure and simple.
A jury of local farmers isn't going to trust the guy in the expensive Italian suit who keeps checking his watch.
But they will trust Calvin Marshall, even if they know he spins tall tales, because he's their tall tale spinner. He provides the heart to Andy's brain.
So the team is finally set. You've got Andy, Calvin, and of course, Tara the dog.
Can't forget Tara.
Now we have to look at the source of all this trouble. Center City, we've alluded to it, but let's really dive in here. Because this isn't just a neighboring town. It's a completely distinct sociological phenomenon.
It is terrifyingly distinct. The notes from the investigation describe it as uniform and silent.
Eerily quiet.
Yeah. When you drive through, there's no chaos, there's no individuality. The houses are all the same. The lawns are manicured the same way.
And they have their own police force, sort of?
They have enforcers. They call them the servants of the keeper.
And these are the guys you see just patrolling the streets.
Yes. They're described as large, uniformed men. They function as a religious police force. They don't have state-issued badges or any real authority.
But in Center City...
In Center City, they have absolute authority. Their job is to intimidate anyone who doesn't belong. They just stand on street corners and watch you. It's unnerving.
And the theology behind all this, the centurions, as they're called, what do they actually believe?
It's a geocentric theology. They believe that the actual plot of land that Center City sits on is the spiritual hub of the entire universe.
The center of the universe.
Literally. Imagine a wagon wheel. Center City is the hub at the very center. The rest of the world, just spokes radiating outwards. They believe they are the literal center of God's attention.
And speaking of wheels, we have to talk about the wheel.
The wheel. This is the detail that takes this whole thing from quirky little sect to totalitarian nightmare.
And that's a real thing.
It's a literal physical spinning wheel in their town hall.
Like a game show wheel. A wheel of fortune type of thing.
The visual is similar, but the consequences are much, much graver. The leader of the town, a man who holds the title of the Keeper.
Currently a man named Clayton Wallace.
Right. Clayton Wallace spins this wheel to receive divine instruction from God.
Okay, but how much instruction? What does this wheel actually decide?
Everything. Total control. The wheel determines who you marry. It determines what your job will be. It determines if you're allowed to travel outside the community. It is a complete and total abdication of free will.
If you're a centurion, you don't make choices.
The wheel makes them for you.
That is horrifying. I mean, can you imagine being 21 years old and just waiting for a spinning piece of wood to tell you who you have to spend the rest of your life with?
It completely removes personal agency. And it's what contextualizes this entire murder case. Elizabeth Barlow wasn't just dating a guy her dad didn't approve of.
She was defying the wheel.
Which is the ultimate sin in their world.
Blasphemy.
Precisely. Dating Jeremy was an act of insurrection. And Jeremy gives Andy this one crucial piece of information about it all.
Okay.
He says that when Elizabeth broke up with him, she was hysterical. Not just sad, but terrified. And she mentioned a name. She mentioned an Eddie.
The mystery man.
The mystery man. Jeremy believed Eddie was someone the wheel had paired her with. Maybe an ex-boyfriend, maybe a fiancé that had been chosen for her by the keeper.
So she was trapped.
That's what it sounds like. Jeremy said Elizabeth and this Eddie were actually planning to run away together.
So she was trying to escape the whole system.
That's the theory. But when Andy starts asking the town about Eddie...
Let me guess.
Silence?
A coordinated wall of absolute silence. There is no Eddie. We don't know anyone named Eddie. It's gaslighting on a municipal scale.
So Andy is basically fighting a ghost. He needs to do something to shake things up.
Which brings us to the preliminary hearing. Now, for anyone listening who isn't a lawyer, a prelim is usually boring.
Extremely boring. It's just a formality, right?
It is. The prosecution just has to show probable cause to move to a full trial. It's a very, very low bar to clear. Normally, the defense just sits back, listens, and saves all their ammo for the real trial.
You don't want to show your hand too early.
You don't.
Yeah.
But Andy decides to go on the offensive.
He wants to bloody the nose of the police right away. He wants to change the public narrative.
Exactly. He targets Officer Cliff Parsons. Remember, Parsons is the cop who saw blood in Jeremy's truck. That's the cornerstone of their initial search. If that sighting was illegal, a lot of evidence could be tainted.
So Andy sets a trap. It's this brilliant piece of legal theater. He brings a display board into the courtroom. And on the board are 4 different red stains.
And he puts Parsons on the stand under oath.
Puts him right on the spot. He asks him to identify the blood.
He says, "Officer, you testified you saw blood from a distance. Can you point to which of these stains is the blood you saw?"
And Parsons is confident. He feels like he's being tested and he's going to pass. He points to one of the stains and says, "That's it. That's the blood."
And the big reveal...
It's melted red licorice.
Laughs. That is fantastic. Just brilliant.
It's better than fantastic. It's devastating for the prosecution. Andy reveals that he just melted down some candy to mimic the stain. It proves 2 critical things.
1, Parsons can't actually tell the difference between blood and candy from a distance.
And 2, which is much more important, Parsons was looking for blood. He had confirmation bias. He saw what he wanted to see to justify making the arrest. He wasn't objective.
So does the judge just throw the case out right there?
No, unfortunately not. The judge is annoyed, but there's still the matter of the bodies being found in the yard. There's enough other evidence to bind Jeremy over for trial.
But Andy wasn't really trying to win the hearing legally.
He was trying to win the narrative.
The headlines.
Exactly. The next day, the story hits the papers. Police mistake candy for blood in Center City murder case. It humiliates the prosecution. It makes the public start to question the whole investigation.
It plants that seed of doubt.
It puts doubt in the water supply. It's a huge psychological win. But it also paints a massive target on Andy's back. The real killers, whoever they are not laughing.
The escalation is immediate, right?
Immediate and shelling. Andy starts getting tailed by those servants of the keeper. These big, silent guys are always in his rearview mirror now.
And then it gets worse.
Much worse. He comes home to his rental house one night, and he finds a message waiting for him.
A dummy.
A life-size dummy hanging by a noose from his ceiling fan.
That is not a subtle threat. I mean, someone broke into his home to do that.
It's a direct death threat. The message is, we can get to you anywhere. Your locks don't matter to us. For most lawyers, that's checkmate. They'd pack up and leave.
They'd say, "I am not dying for this client."
But not Andy. He calls in the cavalry.
He calls Marcus Clark.
He calls Marcus.
We have to talk about Marcus. The description of this guy in the files is just incredible.
Marcus is a force of nature. He's an investigator Andy uses back in New Jersey. But really, he's a bodyguard. He's an enforcer.
He's described as just incredibly dense, muscular, and terrifyingly silent.
His main form of communication is grunting. Ugh. Is a full paragraph for Marcus.
There's this great image in the notes of Marcus just sitting on the porch of this quiet, quaint little rental house in Wisconsin.
Just existing. He sits there on a rocking chair just staring out at the street. And that presence, his mere existence there, changes the entire power dynamic of the town.
So when Andy goes back to Center City,
He brings Marcus. And the servants try their usual intimidation tactics. They try to crowd Andy, block the sidewalk, loom over him.
and what does Marcus do?
Marcus just steps in between them. He doesn't yell. He doesn't push. He just stares. He looks at them like they're food.
And even these religious fanatics.
Even they, who think they're protected by God, they take one look at Marcus and realize, okay, this is a predator that we do not know how to handle.
It buys Andy the space he needs to actually work the case. He's got his muscle now.
And with Marcus watching his back, Andy forces a meeting with Mrs. Barlow, the victim's mother.
But it's not a private chat over tea, is it?
No, it's heavily monitored. The meeting takes place in Center City, under the watchful eye of the keeper, Clayton Wallace, and the town's lawyer, a man named Stephen Drummond.
Okay, wait, let's talk about Stephen Drummond for a second. The notes say he's a Harvard law grad.
Yes, a Harvard-educated lawyer living in a closed religious sect that eschews the modern world. That is a massive red flag.
Yeah, you have to ask yourself, why is a high-powered legal mind hiding out in a town with no TV and a magic wheel?
Drummond is the intellectual enforcer. He's there to make sure Mrs. Barlow doesn't say anything unapproved.
The atmosphere in that room must have been suffocating.
The notes say Mrs. Barlow was terrified. She would look at the man in the room before answering any of Andy's questions. She was checking for approval.
But Andy keeps pushing on the name Eddie.
And he sees a crack in the wall. When he mentions the name, Mrs. Barlow hesitates for just a second. There's a flash of recognition in her eyes, a flash of fear.
But she denies it verbally.
She denies knowing an Eddie, but her body language screams that she's lying. She knows exactly who he is.
And the sister, Madeline, is also there.
Elizabeth's younger sister. She's in the room, totally silent, but she's watching everything. She represents the next generation, the ones who might not be as completely brainwashed. Andy spots her as a potential weak point in the town's wall of silence.
So Andy realizes he can't charm the truth out of them. They're too scared, too controlled, so he uses the law itself as a weapon.
He files something called a writ of mandamus.
Which is some fancy Latin for...
Basically, he sues the town to force them to release their public records, voter rolls, tax lists, that kind of thing.
And Center City fights it.
They try to claim religious exemption, they claim privacy, but the law is the law. Public records are public records. Andy wins the motion in court.
And Drummond threatens him after the hearing?
Not physically, but it's a clear threat. He just says, we know where you live. It's getting personal. They are terrified of those records getting out into the world.
It's not just about the murder at this point.
No. Insular communities like that, they rely on secrecy to survive. Exposure to the outside world is their kryptonite. They don't want outsiders knowing who lives there, or more importantly, who used to live there and doesn't anymore.
So things are tense, but Andy feels like he's finally making some progress. He has the records coming. He's rattled the police with the licorice stunt. He's got Marcus scaring off the goons.
And he's even managed to rekindle his relationship with Lori.
Right. They go out for a dinner date. The notes describe it as a moment of calm. It's the classic calm before the storm.
They're at a nice restaurant, just trying to enjoy a moment of normalcy, pretending for a couple of hours that they aren't in the middle of a murder investigation.
But while they're out, tragedy strikes. And this is the part of the story that just gut punches you.
It is the pivotal moment of the entire case. While Andy and Lori are at dinner, Calvin Marshall, his partner, the one-legged storytelling local lawyer, leaves a voicemail on Andy's answering machine.
What does he say on the message?
He sounds excited. The transcript says he sounds energized, like he's on the verge of a breakthrough. He says he's on the case. He claims he's found a real lead on Eddie.
So he's acting on his own.
He says, I know who he is, Andy. I'm going to go check it out. He's trying to impress Andy. He wants to prove he isn't just some small-town hack, not just a sidekick. He wants to be the hero who breaks the case wide open.
And then while they're still at dinner, Lori's official phone rings.
It's a dispatch call, a traffic accident.
So Lori and Andy rush to the scene.
It's a snowy embankment. It's dark. It's cold. And at the bottom of the embankment is Calvin's car, completely smashed.
And Calvin.
He's dead. The report says his neck was snapped.
The scene is described so vividly in the file, Andy just standing there in the freezing cold, looking at his friend's wrecked car, and the realization just slowly dawns on him.
It wasn't an accident. That is the horror of it. The road wasn't treacherous enough to cause that kind of crash, And Calvin knew these back roads better than anyone. He was a careful driver.
He didn't just drive off a cliff.
He was run off the road. He was murdered.
He was murdered because he found Eddie.
Or he found something that led to Eddie. He got too close to the truth, and the town, or whoever is protecting the town's secrets, they silenced him permanently.
The guilt that Andy must have felt in that moment, it must have been crushing.
It completely transforms him. Think about it. He brought Marcus in to protect himself. He had the big, scary bodyguard. But he left Calvin totally exposed. He never thought they'd go after the local guy.
This part of the deep dive, it shows a real shift in Andy's entire psyche. He's no longer just a lawyer doing a job.
It's a vendetta now.
He isn't just defending Jeremy Davidson anymore.
No. Now he's avenging Calvin Marshall. The gloves are completely off.
The funeral that follows is described as a total circus.
It's surreal. The entire town of Findlay shows up, which shows you how much Calvin was, loved in his own strange way. Even his 3 ex-wives.
The Merry Widows, as they're called.
They're all there, sitting together in the front row, crying on each other's shoulders. Yeah. It's this perfect mix of tragedy and absurdity that Calvin himself would have absolutely loved.
But there's one notable abscess.
The prosecutor, Lester Chapman, stays away. It just highlights the divide. The legal establishment is embarrassed. They know something is deeply wrong here, but the community is genuinely mourning one of their own.
And at the funeral, we get one last reveal about Calvin's character, one final twist in the story of his leg.
Yes. An old friend of Calvin's approaches Andy after the service. They start talking about Calvin and all his wild stories, and the friend finally reveals the truth.
The mountain climbing, the Thresher accident, the bone cancer.
All lies, all bullshit stories he made up.
So how did he really lose the leg?
Vietnam. Calvin was a decorated war hero. He was a Silver Star recipient. He lost his leg in combat while saving the rest of his unit.
Wow. That hits hard. But why hide that? Why make up these ridiculous stories about boulders and farm equipment?
Because he didn't want to be the hero. He didn't want pity, and he didn't want people treating him with reverence. He used humor and these crazy stories as a shield.
He wanted people to laugh with him.
Not feel sorry for him. It adds such a profound layer of tragedy to his murder. He was a genuinely good, genuinely brave man who died trying to do the right thing one last time.
So where does this leave us? We're kind of at the midpoint of a larger story, but for this deep dive, let's just assess the board. Where do things stand?
Well, the pieces are scattered, but they are incredibly volatile. Jeremy is still in jail. He's been bound over for trial. The prosecution is publicly embarrassed, but they're pressing forward because they have no other suspect.
And Andy is grieving, he's angry, and he's now protected by a lethal bodyguard who doesn't say a word.
Right. And Center City. They're under siege. Their secrets are threatened. Their town records have been ordered released by a judge. Their intimidation tactics totally failed to scare Andy off.
In fact, they backfired. They just made him more determined.
Exactly. But the central mystery of Eddie is still completely unsolved. He's a ghost.
And through it all, the wheel keeps spinning.
That is the really haunting part of it all. In the background of all this legal maneuvering and violence, that wheel is still turning in the town hall. And we have to start asking the really big questions now.
Did the wheel decide that Elizabeth Barlow had to die?
And did the wheel decide that Calvin Marshall had to die when he got too close?
That is a chilling thought. We talk about criminal conspiracy, but this could be theological determinism. If you truly believe God is telling you to kill someone through a spinning wheel, you're not committing murder in your own eyes.
You're performing a sacrament. You're carrying out a divine order.
And how do you cross-examine a belief system in a court of law? That's the challenge Andy is facing next.
He has to somehow prove that what they call God's will was actually just human corruption. He has to prove that someone is spinning that wheel with a very specific, very human purpose.
This case, man, it really stays with you. It has all those noir elements, the cold weather, the cynicism, but it's the human element that really lands. The idea of a man like Calvin hiding his heroism behind a joke only to die a hero's death anyway.
And the idea of Andy. The man who tries so hard to care about nothing, who uses his money as a shield to insulate himself from the world, being forced to care about everything. It's a powerful narrative about how you can't ever really hide from the world no matter how much money you have in the bank.
So here's the final thought for you to chew on as we wrap this up. We have a town where a spinning wheel decides your fate. We have a murder that, on the surface, looks like a simple crime of passion, but it feels more and more like a scheduled execution.
Right.
Is it possible that in a place like Center City, there are no accidents? That every single tragedy is scripted? And if that's true, who is really spinning the wheel?
That's the billion-dollar question. Is it
It's not-
divine intervention, or is it just a man behind a curtain pulling all the levers?
We will have to leave it there for now. It's a story of small-town secrets, big city tactics, and the tragic, tragic cost of finding the truth. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Center City mystery.
Always a pleasure.
Take care of yourselves and watch out for the red licorice. We'll catch you on the next one.